You can say that's a slab. Look at that belly on that smallmouth.
Let's go fishing. People, when you're in the mood, let's go fishing. Well, it's just me and you. Head on down to the fishing hole. Grab your hat, get your pole. Let's go fishing. When you're in the mood.
Canadian Sport Fishing is brought to you by Rapala, premium fishing gear crafted from experience. Yamaha, conquer outdoors. Defend Products, eco-friendly protection from biting insects. Dickies, quality workwear since 1922.
Wow, this is almost too quiet. We're here on Manitoulin Island, and I'm fishing near Wikwemikong. We've got a gorgeous afternoon. It's about 4:10, and we've got a beautiful day as far as temperature goes. Now, I could grab this guy, lip him, but look at, I've got that little crankbait, and he's got one hook in his mouth, and one is just on the bottom part of his jaw. It's almost ideal for getting hooked up, so I got to be very careful here when I grab this guy. Okay, I got a good hold on him. What a pretty smallmouth. Now, Luke was telling me that he's patterned these fish in here that come in from the main Lake Huron, and they come into real shallow water, and they primarily feed on crayfish. So what I've done is taken this little dive stew. This is a dive stew Rapala, and it's a number 4. That means that it only dived down to 4 feet. And I'm casting it right to the edge of the weeds, and I'm retrieving it very slowly. And when I look in the water, when it gets close to the boat, I actually see a little bit of a mud trail that it's leaving behind. So it looks like a crayfish going along the bottom. This guy's got one hook just in the surface of the mouth. And see if I can get that treble out without the pliers. I am equipped with everything. The setting up here is just gorgeous. You can look around. It's not at all like being, in southern Ontario where there's lots of cottages. That's one of the reasons why people like coming up here to Manitoulin Island. Number 1, it's very peaceful and green. Number 2, the waters are so clean. Like, look at that nice smallmouth for starters. You can see he's taken on the colors of his surrounding in here. Everything is green. Even the bottom has green vegetation on it. That fish will go about 2.5 pounds. And if guys get this size of fish tomorrow, I think they're going to be throwing them back and trying to get bigger ones. Okay, I'm just going to get him back in the water. Nice fish. And he should take off pretty quick because this water is cold. There he goes. Now, what I really like about this Dives 2 series, there's a reason why it's called Dives 2. This is the 4, and you can see that it's like a miniature crankbait. So for these types of conditions, it's ideal because it looks like a little crayfish. So I have Dives 2 that go right to 20 feet, which is perfect, not for fishing in here, but if I fish some of the deeper shoals. So it's really important, if you're casting crankbaits, that use the right one, because if I use one that dives too deep, I'm constantly going to get hung up on stuff and the lip is going to pick up weeds. So one that I can control, in this one about 3 to 4 feet, where it's going so close to the bottom and where I see that there's a sand bottom or a silt bottom, I can actually run it along the bottom. So it's got a really nice side-to-side action, and it's beautiful. Look at the color, nice and bright. The top looks like a crayfish. Yes. It's so nice to have these smallmouth really smack the crankbaits. And you can get smallmouth in less than 3 feet of water feeding around the reeds. You could throw plastic. I'm sure that using some of the paddle tail swim baits would work well, and also some worms rigged like wacky worm. But I just love casting crankbaits because it calls them from a distance. Let's see if I can get this guy in the net. Nice smallmouth. Look, this is what we're talking about. If you come up here to Lake Huron, you know, I kind of get spoiled because I do a lot of fishing in Lake Erie and also in Lake Simcoe for smallmouth. But up here, there's very few people that fish all these bays, especially in the shallow water. So you can come up, and it's great for the whole family. There's lots of stuff to do. Look, isn't that a nice smallmouth? Gorgeous fish. He had both hooks in his mouth. You can see he's just got one left there. But this is what we're talking about. And that crankbait, that's that dive 2, and it's the 4. So we're fishing in water that's less than 4 feet deep. Right now we're in 2.5 feet of water. And this guy just came out and socked it. So I'm just going to get the hook out. Okay, this guy fought so well. You know, this G3 is so nice because it's deep, but it's not too deep. Now, can you see the reeds? There's lots of water down there. We got about 2 to 3 feet of water. I just wanted to get righted up. And look at him go right down into the reeds. This is amazing. You know, earlier we were getting, oh, nice bass. We were getting smallmouth bass in such shallow water, working bulrush. Now we're working these edges of these rocks. What I'm amazed at here on Lake Huron is how clear the water is and how these fish move in onto these rock piles looking for food in such shallow water. That's a good sized smallmouth. I got a feeling he's going to go maybe close to 20 inches in length. Now what I've decided to do here, because I'm casting a Trigger X tube, is go to a shift spinning outfit. And I've got about a 20-pound test Suffix 832 line with a 12-pound test fluorocarbon leader. So it's a very sensitive outfit. I can feel everything. In that fish, I could feel a couple of taps on my line, and it felt like a fish had inhaled a tube. So I set the hook. So hopefully he's hooked okay. This guy's fighting great. You know, if you haven't had a chance to come up here to fish Lake Huron, we're fishing out of Wikwemikong, and they've got an annual fishing derby for bass and pike. And I got a feeling that the guys that are fishing in it would love to get a bass this size. I think this guy's going to be close to 6 pounds. He's got to be over 5 pounds. Can't get too excited though, because I haven't landed it. That is a thick smallmouth in this clear water, Barb. Okay, and he's fat. I'm going to just turn him around. This is where you give reverence to the fish. Notice that I'm kneeling down. He's got that jig head just in the side of the mouth. See if I can get my thumb in there. Nice and easy. Come on. Ah, I felt it. He's got teeth. He doesn't like my finger in there. Okay. Oh, you know what? Is that a nice smallmouth or what? You can say that's a slab. Did he want that Trigger X tube? You see that tube in there? You can see why they call him a smallmouth. If this was a largemouth, his mouth would be about 3 times that diameter. But he inhaled that tube, and it's good because he's hooked on the roof of the mouth. So he's not going to be damaged at all, as if he was hooked in the gills. Okay, let me get a quick measurement on my handy dandy tape measure. Guess what? 21 inches. That's a gorgeous fish. You know, I would encourage you to come up to Lake Huron, come to Wikwemikong. It's on Manitoulin Island, and have lots of fun catching fish like these. Now, this is a very special place, a very unique community, and I've got Luke with me, who works with Wikwemikong Tourism. Luke, tell us a little bit about what makes Wikwemikong so special, this whole area.
Well, you know, Italo, really it's about being outdoors here on Manitoulin Island. Manitoulin being one of the largest freshwater islands in the world. We have some of the largest, amount of shoreline, pristine shoreline here, in Northern Ontario. And it's a great place, as you can see, to come out and catch some big fish. Fishing is one aspect of the tourism services that we offer here, but of course we have some first-class hiking trails located here in the community, as well as quality, authentic Aboriginal experiences where families can come in and experience some of our culture firsthand. We have two land bases. One of the land bases here on Manitoulin Island, which is called Wikwemikong. We also have another land base located on the mainland, which is called Point Grandine. What we're doing over there is opening up a park similar to the provincial park systems called the Point Grandine Park. It's going to have over 60 kilometers of hiking trail, over 8 interior lakes, and some beautiful paddle.
This is really non-stop action here on Lake Huron. And what's amazing is it's the middle of the day. We've got a little bit of a chop, but the fish are in such shallow water that using good polarized glasses, you can actually spot them. I just got another one on the tube. So even though the water's this clear, these fish are still coming in to feed in water that's like less than 4 feet deep. You can see my tube is way up the line. You know what? We're actually sighting these fish in less than 2 feet of water. I've got another one following the one that I've got on. This is amazing. It's the middle of the day, and the action is non-stop. You can see that tube, it slid up the line. I mean, this would be considered a smallmouth here, because most of them have been pretty big. They've been like 17 to 21 inches. Now, this is actually a good opportunity to show you the jig hook that I'm using, because the tube has slid up the line. So that fish is probably about 2 3/4 pounds. So let me just get the hook out of its mouth. I hooked it right in the top. Gorgeous colors on these fish. They call them bronzeback for a reason, because you can see how they've got that beautiful bronze color with those stripes. So let me just release it. There he goes. Now this is a good opportunity to tell you about the hook. Now this is the hook that I'm using. It's actually a tube jig hook. It's not a normal jig hook like a round jig head. But look at the way the angle is on the eye. It's actually a 60-degree angle. And see the lead? This is coated in black. It's very small. This one is about 3/16 ounces in size. So what I'm going to do is show you the way I've got it rigged. I'm sliding that tube jig head right into the tube, right up to the front. So really when a bass gets this in his mouth, the only thing he feels is the soft body. So you can't even see the eye right now. And it's very light. So there's not much to a tube. This particular one is a Trigger X, and it's called a pumpkin seed color. But when you move it along the bottom, it looks like a crayfish. And when you're dealing with clear water, and you can see these rocky outcrops that are in the background, what the fish are doing, they're coming up from the deeper water. It could be 60, 70 feet deep. They come onto these flats that are 20, 30 feet deep, and then they go right up where most of the food is, which is less than 10 feet of water. And right now it's 2:30, we got bright sunny skies, but there's still, if you see that leading white edge is where the boulders and the rocks are, that's where they're tending to feed. So we're working all these islands and just casting with lighter line. So I've got a 12-pound test fluorocarbon leader because there are zebra mussels here, and you can hook the odd pike. And one thing that's really important is the glasses that I have on. So these are the Rapala, one of the polarized glasses. They're very highly polarized. We're not making long casts. We're just casting to the edge of where the dark troughs are and the lighter water, and just literally shaking that tube along the bottom. And we've got our eyes looking down, because a lot of times you'll see the bass coming out of the slightly deeper water, I'll say darker water, and coming up on these shoals to feed. It's a very exciting way to fish. So if you come up here, to Georgian Bay or Manitoulin Island, we're fishing McGregor's Bay right now, you don't have to fish deep for the bass. You can fish real shallow, whether it's fishing along reeds, way back in the bays where you'd normally pike fish, or whether you're fishing these shoals and islands and rock outcrops that are all over the place.
Closed captioning by Petra-Pod, the only trailer that flips into a boat in less than a minute.
tell you what, look at my wrist. This builds up wrist power. Right here on Lake Huron, going under the boat, fish pulling drag, and I got that drag set pretty tight. You know, the nice thing about these Concept TI rods from Rapala, they got this long fighting butt. I've got the drag tight because I'm trying to set the hook hard, and this fish is really peeling line. So I can put that butt against my body to help my wrist. And this Chaos reel is amazing. You know, it's a low price point reel. It's not expensive, but it's such an effective bait caster. And I just like the feel of a bait caster with that trigger there when you're fighting good-sized bass like this. If you haven't used a bait casting outfit, you know, it takes a little bit of time to get used to it. And there's a reason why we did an editorial on YouTube. Oh, I'm gonna put that back up there. Come here. Of how to use a bait caster properly. So if you go to the Italo channel on YouTube and type in how to use a bait caster properly, if you just got a bait caster, you're having problems, that tutorial really shows you how to use it. Now look, you can see that trigger X hanging out of that smallmouth's mouth. The minnow slid up the line a little bit. I'm just gonna get down and come on. He's got that hook nice on the side. I'm surprised he's not hooked in the roof of the mouth, but he's still hooked well. Those hooks are so sharp. One reason why these hooks work so well is because they're very thin, but very strong. One thing I would caution you about, because I know of guys using hooks like this that are less expensive, and they break on them. So when you're seriously bass fishing and you're using finesse gear, like this tackle, I'm gonna have to stand up, this guy's looking pretty good here. It's worth it to spend a few more dollars and to get the right terminal tackle so that you won't have problems with your fish. Look at that belly on that smallmouth. Very healthy smallmouth. So I'm just gonna get him back in the water and then re-rig my bait. These are such beautiful fish. There he goes. Now this guy messed up my line a little bit. This is where it's important to take your time. Got it untangled and I got it slid up. You know what? This is such a simple rig. You can see that way that spin shot hook is sitting. It's sitting upright. So most of the time the fish are hooked in the roof of the mouth. And this guy actually got to rehook it because it's a little bit frayed from landing a couple of fish. But this doesn't hang down when it's in the water. If you can imagine this weight bouncing along the bottom and this minnow actually being horizontal to the bottom, when you pull it, it actually swims back and forth. And when the fish grab it, they just nail it. The ones that are feeding will hit the bait head first. So, but I just stress, if you're gonna use terminal tackle like this and you know have the chance of getting 4, 5, 6 pound smallmouth or other species of fish, it's very important that you buy good terminal tackle, not the cheap stuff. So 4 of these in a container are about $4. They're almost $1 each. You can get 6 cheap ones for like $2. But you know what? The swivel breaks apart, the hook breaks apart, it's not worth it. So if you're gonna go big, you know, to catch big fish, go big on also the hooks quality that you buy. Oh, nice jump. Look at this. Come on, are you gonna jump again? I've got that small drop shot hook in its mouth. You know, we're fishing up here. I keep repeating, we're on Lake Huron. Feels like we're out in the ocean, close to some islands, because the water is crystal clear. I mean, you can see bottom in 20 feet of water. And we're getting these trophy smallmouth bass, look. Fishing in water that's like 2 to 4 feet deep. They're coming up on these shoals to feed. And we're using a variety of presentation, but really the Trigger X, the plastic grubs, are the ones that are working great. This one just took one of the finesse minnows. It's about 4.5 inches long. Hopefully I'll land it so I can show it to you. But, oh, it's got the hook just in the side of the mouth. I thought he had swallowed it. And I think he threw the minnow away. Come on up. Just trying to get him back here so I can land him. Come on over here. Good bass. He's not hook deep. This is a good test to see how strong those hooks are because they're not very big. Come on. They don't like to be thumbed. Come on. And I can't flip him in because I got a light leader on. That's the whole idea of drop shotting. There. Isn't that a nice smallmouth? That fish will go probably over 4 pounds. I mean, it's hard now to judge weight because I've got so many fish from 4 to 6 pounds. So there's my distance from my lead. There's my weight right there. I'm up about 14 inches, and look at how well that hook, this is called a spin shot hook. You can see it right there. It's unique because the hook is on a swivel. If you can see that swivel that's right there. So when you tie 2 pieces of line, your main line and then your tag line, on either end of those eyes, the hook faces upwards. So you see the way you get a great hook set. That hook is right through the top of the fish. That's a nice bass. Let me get him back in. And you're gonna see, you can see that bottom, how clear the water is. I'm gonna try to extend him out and hold him there for a split second. He wants to go. Look it. Come on, go down. It's nice to see him swim off like that. I'm telling you, this water is so clear. I can't imagine snorkeling here. The water temperature is about 65 degrees, so it's not really swimming temperature. But there's that drop shot rig. So all I'm using is a 3/8 ounce bell sinker at one end. And I look at it almost as a disposable sinker. If I get stuck on bottom, that's what should get caught, because the hook is up about 16 inches. And this is what I'm using right here. These are these minnows. They're called minnows. I call them a finesse minnow. And this particular one is 4.5 inches in length. The package will tell you. If you look on the package, you can see that it has the size. Sorry, they're 5 inches in length. I thought it was 4.5. But they're a very natural color. So you can see they've got like a pearl with a green back. You can fish them if you're fishing in shallow water, and probably here too, just with a worm hook, about a number 5 worm hook, and then put the worm hook right here on the bottom and coming up through the top. But all I'm doing is taking that hook, placing it about 1/4 of an inch in on the minnow and putting it through so the minnow sits upright. So that's what it looks like right there going through the water. Now watch the action when I put it in the water. I'm not going to put it right down on the bottom, but even if I just hold it just below the surface and I shake it, I mean, it looks like a real minnow.
Canadian Sport Fishing is brought to you by Suffix. Always use the best line. Yamaha. Conquer Outdoors. Defend Products. Eco-friendly protection from biting insects. Dickies. Quality workwear since 1922.
You know, this is very interesting fishing. It actually reminds me of fishing in Florida, where you're casting to the mangroves for redfish and snook. We do the same thing, only here we don't have overhanging bushes. So what we're doing is just working this edge and concentrating on getting our cast, this is a little hammer handle pike, within 5 feet of the edge. Now, this is going to be interesting. This guy's small. I got to be careful because I've got that crankbait on there. More people get hurt trying to release a small pike because they figure it's not going to bother them. So it's kind of important to have the right tools. So I'm just going to release that guy. We call those guys snot rockets because they're kind of slimy.